Do your trees look like lollipops? In this lesson, I want to work on tree basics. I had somebody message me that their trees look like lollipops, so I am going to show you how to paint trees today and how to approach trees. Normally I work from sketches, but today I'm going to work from a photo reference of a tree. I chose this reference because it's kind of a typical tree. Normally when you paint trees, you're painting more than one. Here are photo references that you can see there's just more than one tree in the pictures. Landscapes typically have more than one tree, but the principles are basically the same. You get lakes, you get reflections. The only difference is you have to pay attention to where the trees overlap and how the light is changed from one tree to the next. The most important thing you can get out of today's lesson is sky holes. You have to put them in, but you must wait until near the end to put them in. Too many people put them in too soon. I'm pastelist Avon Waters, and welcome to my channel. It's all about helping people not make some of the same mistakes I did. So let's talk about trees today. Everybody always asks what paper I'm using. This is a new paper that I've tried, and I kind of like it. It's made in Italy. It's by Stifflex. It's really stiff, Stifflex. You can Google it. It says artwork pad. It comes in different shades. I'm going to be drawing this reference. I'm going to be working in soft pastel and drawing with them. If you prefer, you can use a pencil just to get a sketch down and then work with soft pastels after that. I'm just trying to get the shape of this in here. I might, just for the fun of it, run this little rim light across the top of these trees that go across this way. Whatever you decide to do, start with the basic shapes and think in terms of big shapes. We basically are painting in large masses first. And don't get hung up on trying to make the outline exactly as it is in the reference photograph. You're an artist. Your job is to try to create a sense of creativity. Your job is to try to create something new and different. Think about what made you stop to look at that tree. In this case, it's the long, skinny tree. I typically start with my lights and go to darks, or go to my darks and go to lights. And then this is a middle tone that I fill in these big shapes with. I've started out with what we call a local palette. They're basic greens. Here's some of the pastels I'm blocking in with. You can see I've got a light, kind of a yellow green. This is my middle tone, this kind of yellow but earthy green. And this is my shadow, and these are the deeper shadows using this kind of a blue-green. And for my sky, I've got this lighter blue. I'll stick that lighter blue in here. At this stage, it's all about establishing values. While you've got nice big shapes, the values are important. Get those kind of adjusted. As you can see down in here, we've use some of this dark blue, just putting a little light blue to give a little modeling in there. Nothing is defined, no details. We're just trying to get some big shapes and get some of values that we can work from and build upon. And I'm going to put just a little bit, I'm not pressing very hard here, I just want some blues in there. The thing a lot of beginners forget is that the shadows have a little bit of blue in them. And we're going to mix that with some of this green. It'll stay green. Right now it looks kind of too blue, and it probably is. Don't confuse values with color temperature. You notice I'm using the side of the pastel, and I'm varying my pressure. The light, as we discussed earlier, is coming in from this direction, hitting the top of this tree a little bit more than it is at the bottom. Right now, I have it pretty uniform from top to bottom. I want to tame down, so I'm going to take my darker tone and stick over some of these middle tones in here, and by mixing the two, I tame some of this down just a little bit. And the same for here. I'm not going to concentrate too much over here. The idea is, how do we build this tree? How do we build this tree from scratch? I'm going to blend very lightly. I don't want to blend too hard. I just want to, as I make these darks and these lights and the middle tones, I want to take some of the edge off. And just, again, we're working in big shapes still. We're not thinking, we're at the beginning. This thing is at the beginning stages. Trying to fill in some of those little skips and jumps of the paper. This was nice because this is kind of a dark area, so that paper had a natural tone to it when they shipped it to me. As I said, you can get different shades and different tones on that paper. If any of you have ever done any figure drawing and done gesture drawing, what we're doing is basically, I refer to landscape, the beginnings, as gesture drawing. You're creating kind of an abstract, just those big shapes, just those lines, just some of the areas that might be of interest here and there. You can see now I'm starting to use some of these colors sparingly and putting in little dots of color here and there in some of these shapes. So I'm exiting the beginning stages and starting to enter the middle stage of this painting by breaking up some of these spaces. I'm choosing a little darker, it's got some green in it. It's like a darker version of what I used over here. So I'm pulling additional colors out of my box. While we want blue in there, if you want to stay with local colors and give the effect that, oh, hey, my skies are blue, my grass is green, and my trees are greens, full of greens, you've got to, you can't just use that blue-green back in there. You've got to add some other colors that have green in them. And I love this earthy color. There's some sets of landscape sets that you can get that have these earthy colors in them. And they really work well to knock down some of those blues. So you still get those blue shadows. Get a little more dark in on this side. The danger here is that you get the dark to blend in and then your dark side blends in with your background. We got to keep that somewhat separate. Right now it's blending, but we'll get it back to where we want it. Soften the edges. You're not painting each individual branch. You're not painting each individual leaf. That's the key. Keep your shapes big. We're kind of painting from the inside out from the darks into the middles and out into the highlights. The neat thing about pastel is you can start with your lights and go to your darks. You can do it from your darks to your lights. In oil painting and acrylic painting, typically you gotta always start with your darks and build up to your lights or join the middle like I did here. Pastelists will go either way. We're flexible. As I said, we're breaking this into smaller shapes now. We've entered the middle stage. But what we want to do is we want to look at this reference now as we break this, and we want to see where those layers, those limbs are coming out and layering over the top of one another. If this is hitting the light, then underneath this is going to be some shadow, and then another light area, and then some shadow. You take a look, depending on the type of tree and your resource, you'll take a look and you just try to find, as you break this big shape up and these big shapes up, you try to find areas where it goes from light to dark to light to dark, and that's that layering effect. We're not putting in every leaf, and we're not putting in the stems and the branches and the little limbs that we're seeing yet. That comes in the middle stage, but a little bit later as we start to make these layering first. And I see the sun hit this side, so there's a little darker area right in here. We just hint at some of those dark areas. Typically, the darks will be real close to the highlights. That's what gives you that contrast. So look for, this particular tree is going vertical. Sometimes, like maples will layer and pines will layer on top of one another, a branch sagging this way, another one this way, another this way. So it's light, dark, light, dark. But this one tends to be growing this way. So I'm getting layers that are running parallel to some of the light areas and the middle tones. So we're just trying to find, not trying to find every one of these dark layered areas. We're just trying to find a few, just a hint. We are after that illusion. We artists are illusionists, unless you're a photorealist. And there's nothing wrong with being a photorealist, but I am trying to create that illusion of limbs and trees being layered. That's one of the secrets, is you watch and look for the direction of the layering. Is it on top of, is it branches and limbs going out horizontally, diagonally, or almost diagonal vertical like these are? And that's what you're looking for. You're looking for that little dab, just a few hints that tell your viewer that this tree is growing this way. And again, I'm not paying a whole lot of attention to these bushes running along there, but it's the same process. If we were going to do that, we would take a look at how those bushes are growing. Back in these darks, there's some treetops. This is a very pale blue-green, so it will go, it's got blue in it, so it should help create some of these values back in here and break some of this up also. Again, I'm looking at the layer of trees. I'm looking at the tops of these trees in this dark area that are just starting to catch some of that light coming in from this area, and just signifying where some of those light tree tops would be going up this hill. We'll refine that a little bit, but you can start to see I'm breaking up that area. The same down in here. I don't want to use this green too much down in here because this is forward. I want to use a little brighter green in there. Probably shouldn't have used it at all now that I put it on there. Sometimes you just don't know until you lay it down on the page. And you go, ooh, that's not quite right. Ooh, we got problems there, George. We get this far along and we can start establishing some tree trunks. Not sure what color I've got here. Yeah, that's good. It's a very deep green. Establish a tree trunk. This tree has a little tree trunk down here at the bottom. Too many people just start drawing the skeleton of the tree. But we want to just hint at where some of these tree trunks would be. Now, the problem with this is, because it's so dark, look at it. It looks like we've pasted on some of these tree trunks and limbs. The more you go outside and paint, and the more you look at the trees, the more you can kind of estimate and guess where. I'm putting actually more tree trunk in than what we're seeing here with this particular tree in the photograph reference. And trees always have a base, and they always have an area under them that is, always is a bad word to use, typically is darker than other areas. So do these shrubs coming down in here. I'm just going to put a few marks like this just to indicate you might be able to, as a viewer, see some of those shrub branches from underneath here. Once you add a dark branch, like I said, they become kind of pasted on here. So you've got to take the colors that they're going into, and you've got to come back in here, and you've got to just lightly kind of go over the ends of them. This is going into this middle tone or this dark area. So I'm going to go over the ends, and you see I still get the sense that there's a tree trunk or a branch there, but it doesn't stop and start just all at once. It's broken up now, and that allows the eye to not have to deal with that sharp edge at the top and the bottom of these things. And some of these are going into this middle tone that I use. So I've got to go over those branches in places and reestablish those middle tones. And I'm, again, using the side of the pastel. Now we've got the dark here, and we got the dark here. So adding a middle tone kind of just in a linear fashion along this edge will reestablish some of that edge that we lost when we started putting those darks in there. And as I do this, remember my tree grew in kind of a diagonal verticals. So as I do this, I'm adding those side strokes in that manner to create that that vertical growth. Now these shrubs are not that way. So this is where we're very much like acrylic artists and painters, is we reestablish the lights near the end. We are starting to end, once we've got those branches in there and some of those little limbs, we're starting to now enter and add more detail to some of these areas where the light is hitting the tree, and we're adding our lights near the end, just like we would in oil and acrylic painting. We're reestablishing those because our piddling around with the establishing some of the lights and darks, we've lost some of those. You'll notice that there's a lot more light than dark, and this painting didn't have it. So very light touch with pastel, and we reestablish some of those areas. And we'll have to now go in and reestablish some of those shadows. And I lost my tree trunk in a place or two, so I'm going to very lightly get some of that back in there. And now we're working on those values. Remember I said near the base of the tree, there's not as much light gets into the base of these trees. And the way I had this thing painted, it was from top to bottom, pretty much the same light, the same dark, same middle tones. So we'll get a little more blue-green in there. This side of the tree doesn't get as much light as that side, so just dusting lightly over that. I keep a highlight, but it's not as bright as those highlights. Got a little greener yellow-green here. It's got a little more green than that previous highlight color, so I'm mixing up and breaking up some of those shapes and things in there. I'm not worried. I will cross over some of these limbs and branches I stuck in, and that actually helps to incorporate them into the tree. So don't be afraid to draw those branches and then go over them with some of your pastels. That actually is helping them. Now, the sky holes. It is the end stage that we start adding sky holes. In this particular image, my sky holes are going to be the same color, but typically just a little darker than these. When you got a hole that the sky is coming through, in this case, it's not the sky, it's the background trees going up that hill that we are seeing through these holes. So I've got to add those in places. Remember, we looked and our whole goal was to create these shapes. So in between a branch going up this way and its dark side, there are places where, in this case, our sky holes are going to be a little darker than the sky itself because we're looking through and seeing those trees behind. So we're creating some sky holes that are really tree holes. We're seeing trees through the holes. And look what a difference that makes when you just break up some areas. And a good way to start to experiment with sky holes is come in from the top. If this was sky, it'd be lighter, but here it's trees. We come in from the top and we create some shapes. And if you look at sky holes, you'll see that some of these sky holes are actually upside down triangles. You can get too many sky holes, you can get too big a sky holes, you can get too few sky holes. It's kind of, you've got to make some decisions and figure out, what is it I'm trying to do here? And one of the neat little secrets is this sky hole and this sky hole, they're almost the same size. And that happens. These repetitive sizes. One way to do this is to break up that by putting a branch or a little limb in the middle of one of those two. Because it's dark, because the sky hole's dark and not light, I have to make that branch become lighter. So I'm using kind of a pale green, and I'm going to put a highlight on the edge of our tree trunk. So a lot of times you can create, and we just tap it again so they don't look like they're pasted on. We just tap the ends of that so they blend a little bit better. Stick a little bit of a sky hole to separate the edge of this tree from these bushes. Wrong color. Wrong color. Whoa, wrong color. This isn't quite done, but it's far enough along that you can see the process. Remember, gesture first, value first, structure first, the way those limbs are layered, not the tree trunks. Details, such as the tree trunks and the sky holes, last. Every tree, every group of trees It's all the same process. That should give you some ideas. We didn't pay much attention to the details down in here because this is a lesson about trees. Hopefully you'll start painting trees with confidence and you got something out of that. If you're a subscriber, please hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. Next week, I'll have another great topic for you. So keep painting, have fun, and so long, everybody.